Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show. What I want to say in the wake of that conversation with Jacqueline Wrigley was, how about that? How about that? It was a dynamic conversation, and we probably should dedicate an entire hour to each of the One Coast Award winners because they have so much to teach. And that's that's the reason we started these awards back at the Sun Herald in 2002, because we wanted to hold these people up as examples. And I'm super thrilled to have my next guest, also a One Coast Award winner, Dr. Cedric Bradley. He is a PhD. He serves as the vice president of the now called Harrison County campus and Keesler Center and Naval Construction Battalion Center. We talk about all those on the show on a regular basis. But he's a proud member of the incredible team at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and again, a One Coast Award winner. How you doing, Cedric?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ricky. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. Super excited about it. Appreciate it a lot.
Listen, as I mentioned, and regular listeners know this, but there was a moment in time when I was a paramedic and I was in pre-med, and I had a time at Mississippi Power working with a man by the name of Bobby Nichols, who was an incredible mentor for me. He listens to the show on a regular basis, so a shout out to Bobby Nichols and his wife, Janet. But I was walking through the halls of Jeff Davis at the time, the Harrison County campus, and Mr. Smith, who was a great advisor there back when I was there, and this was in the early 80s. And we were going down the hall, and I was a kid on a mission, man. I wanted to make 100 on everything. I was that kind of student. And he stopped me in the hall and he said, man, you need to get on with the program. You've got an incredible future ahead of you. And I said, man, I think I'm gonna have to work my way through this because I don't have a lot of funds. He said, come see me. We'll find the funds, which he did, and he helped me ultimately transfer from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College to Southern Miss on a full academic scholarship, and the rest is kind of history. But it was, Weta White was in the business department there, and I was in Phi Beta Lambda, and she was an incredible mentor for me as well. But I can just keep Mr. Stamps, who died just a couple of years ago, and who taught sociology there. I mean, I could name so many people, but I was literally a human sponge. And my time at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College literally changed my life and the trajectory of my career. You hear that a lot, though, don't you, Cedric?
We hear it so much, Ricky, and your story is so similar to so many of our students that come through Gulf Coast Community College every day. And not only Gulf Coast, but just the Mississippi Community College system as a whole. You have so many students with those different stories who are, some of them are just like you. They're that sponge and they're trying to soak up all that information. Others are just trying to figure out, where do I belong? And you have so many different students to come through. But the great thing about it is we're able to help them get to that path, to that goal that they're trying to get to. And that's one of the things that makes it so meaningful to work here at Gulf Coast Community College every day.
Well, you are a coveted member of Mary Graham's team. I know that. Have tremendous respect for Mary. It says a lot about your leadership skills that you're engaged in this. One of the things that I had Roland Weeks was my mentor, and Roland sent me, he must have spent $100,000 sending me to some of the best programs in America, to Cornell University, to Northwestern University, to a year-long executive leadership program there, and so many others. I went to the American Press Institute 3 different times in Washington, D.C. I noticed that you actually went to the Aspen Institute along the way. You've also had these opportunities to learn. But, man, when you go away and gain perspective outside of Mississippi, just getting perspective and being in a room with a bunch of smart people, it really helps you learn from others and say, oh, gosh, that guy is super impressive. What is it that I'm impressed with? You become sort of a study of other leaders, don't you?
You really do, Ricky. You get a chance to see what's happening in other states and their community college systems and their higher ed systems. But one of the things that I notice a lot, that when we go to these different conferences or what have you, is that people realize that Mississippi is doing it right. A lot of times people have this misconception that Mississippi is doing it the wrong way, but that is so far from the truth that Mississippi is doing it the right way, and they're looking to Mississippi to give them skills and knowledge about the things that we're doing, so they can try to implement those things in their states. And so that's one of the main things I notice a lot when I have an opportunity to go to those Aspen Institute and those types of things. They're asking, hey, how do y'all do that in Mississippi? How are y'all able to do that? And that's what gets me super excited about it too. So,
well, it's great for you as a leader to have that opportunity. I had a great conversation with a One Coast Award winner, her, CC Shabazz, who works with Award Systems. And she also talked about, and I talk about it on the show all the time, Mississippi has work to do. We'll always have work. Every state has work to do. But the perception of Mississippi, we don't earn that today. And the best way to know that is to go to the lower Delta after a tornado and see how people come together, neighbor helping neighbor, to come to coastal Mississippi after something like Hurricane Katrina, and to see how something like that is an equal opportunity destroyer in the polarized world that we often live in, and these negative perceptions of Mississippi. You get to see what's in the heart and soul of Mississippians during that moment. But when you do leave, and I felt the same way, I had a lot of responsibilities during my career outside of Mississippi. And I know, I can sense that you feel this as well. And I've talked to other leaders who have roles outside Mississippi or who travel outside Mississippi. In a way, we sort of carry a burden. And the burden is to set the record straight. To say, hey, man, you might have that perception about the community college system, but let me tell you, the community college system in Mississippi is one of the top, if not the top community college systems in America. Look, we're not just somewhere in the middle. It's like across the board, one of the best in the United States. And the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is regularly the best in the state. So by transition, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is one of the top community college institutions in the entire United States. And this is the data proves that out, doesn't it, Cedric?
It really does. We've been very fortunate, Ricky, to be recognized, as you said, as one of the top institutions in the United States. And not only just as an institution as a whole, but in some of those specific categories, such as being a military-friendly institution. We were recognized as the number one. This is community colleges and universities. We were recognized as the number one military-friendly school throughout the whole United States. And in addition to that, not only just military-friendly, but military spouse-friendly, because, a service individual, they're going to have their spouse, and their spouse has to go through those challenges just like they are. So we're being responsive to both the service person as well as their spouse as well. So a lot of different categories at Gulf Coast Community College. We're very fortunate to be ranked as one of the top institutions in America in so many different categories. For instance, and we're going to get a chance to talk about this, I think, some of the things that we're doing in the cybersecurity space, where we're recognized as one of the top institutions in the cybersecurity world, where we're getting specific designations that we're one of 2 higher ed institutions in Mississippi to receive those designations. And it goes back to, you mentioned before about leadership. It really goes back to our leader, Dr. Graham, who's making sure that Gulf Coast Community College is being innovative, we're being responsive, not only to our community, but the state and the region as a whole. So because of her leadership, it allows us, as everyone else who works here, to be able to do those things that we know will be beneficial to our students, to be beneficial to our community, and all of those things to go along with that.
It's incredible the where you are in your nursing programs, what Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is doing, and the job development side of this. When you come to the realization that over half of the students at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, if I recall this correctly from my past conversation with Mary Graham, are actually enrolled in non-traditional education, and the kind of you've got diesel programs where people can lead that program and make 6 figures. It's redefined. It's redefining that for some people a 4-year university degree is the way to go. But for a lot of people, the opportunities in the job market are so significant that you don't need to go that path. And the fact that you've had so much success sort of defining that, the level of innovation is extraordinary. And what I'm impressed about what you're doing is you're listening to your partners, you're listening to your industry partners, and you're understanding where are the job requirements for them, where are the jobs that are competitive for them to be able to get these people, and you're playing in that space. But you know what? This is not a conversation about Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. It's actually a conversation about you.
Yes,
and I was
sir.
impressed. I was impressed that you'd spent a considerable amount of time at Meridian Community College. You were an English teacher, and you were actually head of the language department. And when we come back on the other side, I want to talk about the role that communication plays in your career and why that's so important. And we'll talk a little bit more about just leadership in general. We'll see you after this break as we continue our One Coast Award winner tour. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show. We're having, as I say, the One Coast Award winner tour, and Dr. Cedric Bradley. He's the vice president of the Harrison County campus, Keesler Center, Naval Construction Battalion Center from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. I'm a proud member of the Hall of Fame of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. I've been amazed at how innovative they've been over all these years. And as we were saying before we went to break, over 50% of their students are enrolled in non-traditional education today. It just shows you how adapted they are to what the needs in the community are, and creating opportunities for students beyond their wildest imagination. Not just a 2+2 thing anymore. They're helping people get ready for their careers as soon as they're done with Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. But we're celebrating Cedric's life in a way, and his time at Meridian Community College. He taught English. Where did the focus on education in your life come from?
Yeah, well, Ricky, to be honest with you, the focus really came from my mom. My mom had 7 sisters and brothers, and I think all but one started at a community college and then went off to a 4-year college or university. But I often tell people, I grew up in Clark County, Mississippi. That's where I grew up. And my mom, for many years, she worked at a sewing factory. And then after so many years, she decided that, hey, I need to do something better for myself. And she decided to go back to school, and she went back to school and became a social worker. And from then on, for us, I have two sisters. And for us, when we graduated high school, we really did not know we had a choice of what to do after that. We always thought that the choice was we had to go to college. And so it was sort of ingrained into us in that way. But my mom, she decided to go back to school. My dad, he had a high school degree, but, he was an outside worker. He was a worker with his hands and those types of things. But as far as the education piece, just watching my mom and watching her go back to school and get a degree is what really put us on the path to making sure that we would do that as well.
Yeah, you're kind of telling my family story in a way. My grandparents actually worked in a factory. It was trying to remember the name of it, but it's right on the tip of my tongue, but it was a garment factory. Very tough work. Back in the day when unionization became a big issue and the working conditions were terrible. But what came as a result of my grandparents working in that situation was that they wanted more for the next generation. And then of course my parents, and they instilled that in us, and our kids have really done well. And my same story on my wife's side of the family. Her grandparents on our dad's side came here from Croatia through Ellis Island, and they wanted more for their kids. And now, you look at all the grandkids now, they've all got college degrees and have done really well. But you're an excellent communicator, Cedric. I can see that clearly. So I wasn't surprised, in fact, to learn that you had actually taught English along the way, and that you were head of the language and literature program at Meridian Community College. But communication, man, that I came from the newspaper and digital media world and the news world. Communication, I don't care what you do, is the key to success, isn't it?
It really is, and it's so important to make sure that you are telling your story, and you're not only telling your story, but you're also listening as well. I often tell students when we talk about communication, a lot of times they think that it's just about you talking. That's a lot of times what they think. That's what communication is. But the listening piece is so important. And I always often tell them, when you're in that leadership role, one of the things that I make a concerted effort to do all the time is that when I'm going around and I'm talking to instructors or I'm talking to staff members and I'm listening to what they're talking about, it can be something as simple as, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And they're saying, well, my kid has a soccer game and we're going to go to the soccer game. And then the next week when you see them, just being able to say, hey, how did the soccer game go? They know that you're listening to them. So that's that other form of communication. And when they know that you're listening, it shows that you care. And that's so important. And when people know that you care, it can make a big difference in how they respond to different things, the efforts that they put in and all of those things. And so it all comes back to that communication, not only the verbal communication of you talking, but also that communication piece of your listening as well. All of it is just so important. I don't think one is more important than the other, but it's all so important there.
Boy, that's so well said. I can't agree more. In fact, one of the reasons I love this show is to listen. My job is to tee people up and give them an opportunity to share their point of view. But, you're extremely articulate. You're extremely well educated. You're with a great team. You're doing innovative things. But again, you're right that people sometimes see communication as, the ability to articulate yourself and gather your thoughts, and all that's true for sure.
Yeah.
But very, very little communication happens in a one-sided way. Most communication enables, a give and take, and being able to listen is so important. Listen, man, we're going to come back together again. I hate that we're out of time. You and I will actually come back together again and spend an hour together, because we'll get Cammie to reach out to you. I want to talk about the evolution of education and the work that you're doing today, your technical training background, and all the work that you're doing to listen to your partners. Gosh, there's so much to do. What's going on at Keesler? What's going on at Naval Construction, this Battalion Center, the CB base? Anyway, there's a lot of ground to cover, and I can't wait to continue the conversation, Cedric.
Hey, thank you so much, Ricky. Definitely appreciate being on your show, and looking forward to being on here anytime that you want me to.
You bet. This has been Dr. Cedric Bradley from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.